Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions, and this one, you might want to sit down for. I've never punched a wall in my life. Not because I'm too calm or rational or above it, but because I know I'd miss, hit a stud, and break my hand. That's the kind of man I am. My name's Emory, and the day I left my wife, I was holding a fresh jar of pickles in one hand and her silence in the other. Let me explain, because no, this isn't a food story. It's a story about how you can live next to someone for years, sleep inches away, and still have no idea who they really are. Until one afternoon when the universe throws all its cards on the table. Face up, no mercy. We hadn't fought. Not that day. Not even the day before. She wasn't cold. She wasn't distant. In fact, she was humming. Literally humming while folding laundry when I came home. And then she just turned, looked at me with this calm, practiced expression, like someone reading from a script, and said, "It's over, Emory. I'm leaving. I've been seeing someone else for a while. I'm not sorry." No build-up. No apology. Just that. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't even ask who it was. I just blinked, nodded once, turned around, and walked out the door. I left the groceries on the passenger seat. I left the porch light on. I left the life I built with my bare hands sitting on that couch, wrapped in a throw blanket I paid for, staring at me like I was the one who ruined everything. But before I closed the front door, I reached into the hallway drawer and grabbed something. Not my wallet, not a photo, something small, easy to overlook, something that, if you knew Marigold, my wife, you'd know was everything to her. And I walked away. No note, no text, no yelling in the driveway, just silence. And the smallest kind of revenge that doesn't feel like revenge at all, until it does. Now, I'm sitting in my brother's attic next to a dusty lamp and a stack of unopened wedding gifts he never returned. It's hot. It smells like wood glue. And I've spent the last 4 hours replaying every moment of our last week together, searching for signs. Looking for the blink I missed. The breath she held too long. The lipstick she never used before. The lie that slipped past me in plain daylight. I thought being the good guy meant something. I thought staying faithful, showing up, remembering the little things. I thought all that counted. Turns out, it didn't. But here's the part she'll never understand. She thought I'd break down. She thought I'd scream, maybe beg her to stay. She never expected me to vanish, completely, without a word. And she definitely didn't expect me to take that with me. Let's just say, the thing I grabbed wasn't mine. But when she realizes it's gone, she'll know I was never the one who betrayed anyone. This is only the beginning. The attic fan makes this constant whirring sound, like it's trying to whisper things I'm not ready to hear. I've been lying on this lumpy pull-out mattress for 2 days now, half listening to my brother Harlan stomp around downstairs and yell at his video games like his life depends on them. I envy him. He's single, chaotic, and too distracted to ever be heartbroken. Meanwhile, I haven't even opened my suitcase. It's just sitting by the door like it's waiting for a better version of me to arrive and unpack it. I still haven't told anyone what I took from the house. Not even Harlan. He thinks I'm in shock, and maybe I am, but it's not the kind you cry through. It's the kind that's quiet and heavy, like wearing wet clothes you can't peel off. What I took wasn't revenge. It wasn't planned. It wasn't meant to hurt her. At least not at first. It was instinct. My hand moved before my brain caught up. I saw it sitting in the drawer and just took it. It's still here, wrapped in an old sock in the corner of my duffel bag. I haven't even looked at it since I left, but I know she's panicking. She'll search every drawer, retrace every step. Because to Marigold, that small black key meant more than our anniversary dinners or our so-called shared goals. That key opened a box, and that box held secrets, not just hers, but ours. And maybe that's why I took it. Maybe I wanted to remind her that while she was busy moving on, I still remembered what we built, even if she didn't. I didn't sleep last night. I kept playing this movie in my head, the way she blinked, calmly, after telling me she was leaving. Like she had rehearsed it. Like she was proud of how smoothly it came out. What kind of person practices ending a marriage? What kind of person picks out a new life and tosses the old one like expired milk? I remember this time 6 months ago, we were at her coworker's wedding. She wore this dark green dress that made the room go quiet. I stood there in the corner like always, holding her clutch and pretending not to notice how her hand never found mine. That night, on the drive home, she stared out the window the whole way. When we got back, she went straight to bed. No goodnight kiss. No thanks. I should have known something was wrong. I should have asked. But I didn't. I was too busy trying not to make her uncomfortable. That's what I always did, dimmed myself down so she could shine. Now I'm starting to wonder if she ever really saw me at all. She hasn't called since I left. Not once. Not a text. Not a "where are you?" or a "can we talk?" But I know her. I know her pride. She won't ask directly, but she'll let it eat her alive quietly, wondering if I'm going to say something. Wondering if I'm going to use what I took. And maybe I should. Not out of spite. Not to hurt her. But because the truth, the real, messy truth she buried, deserves to come out. If not for her, then for me. Because if I stay quiet forever, she gets to rewrite everything. She'll tell her new guy some version of the story where I was boring, checked out, a shell of a man she outgrew. And maybe I was. But that's not all I was. I was the man who built a life brick by brick, not because it was easy, but because I believed she was worth it. I was the guy who forgave without asking for proof, who made space for her even when I was shrinking. And I was the one who left without slamming a single door, but took the truth with him. And now? Now she's going to have to live with the silence. Because sometimes the quietest exit makes the loudest noise. The attic smells like dust and cedar and regret. I've started recognizing the rhythm of the wind against the roof tiles. I've even memorized the soft clicking sound of the lamp chains swinging when the windows cracked open. This is what my life has become, an endless loop of tiny noises, because the loud part, the part that used to be her, is gone. Harlan keeps inviting me downstairs. He's trying. He offers me burnt waffles and watery coffee like it's some kind of antidote to heartbreak. I mumble thanks. I force half a smile. I pretend I'm okay for the sake of his cats, who watch me like they know I'm about to break. But truthfully, it's not the leaving that hurts the most. It's not even that she was seeing someone else. It's that she had something to hide. Something she was terrified I'd ever find. And I knew the moment her eyes twitched toward the hallway drawer, that one stupid flick of her glance when she said it was over, that she remembered what was inside. That's when I knew I had to take the key. I haven't opened the box yet. I've had it for 3 days now. It's locked, matte silver, heavy, and worn at the corners like it's been moved around for years, but never truly acknowledged. It used to sit in the back of our shared closet, under the winter sweaters we never wore in Georgia. She told me it was just old photos and tax documents. I believed her, like a fool. But the way she moved when I walked past it, the way her voice cracked once, months ago, when I asked about it, that box was never just paperwork. I think about opening it constantly. I imagine it holding old love letters from him, the man she left me for. Or maybe there's money. Maybe she was planning to run without a word. Or worse, maybe it's memories of someone who came before me. Someone I was never meant to replace, but always did. I'm afraid to know, but I'm more afraid not to. I used to think we were just drifting, that maybe we were both exhausted. That routine had killed the spark. But now I wonder if she started sabotaging us long before I noticed. Quietly, strategically, with small choices that added up until I was left wondering when it all shifted from us to me and the guy who doesn't get it anymore. And here's the worst part. I still miss her. Even after everything. Even after that cold, calculated goodbye. Even knowing she lied. I miss the version of her that used to dance in the kitchen barefoot, stealing sips of wine before dinner. I miss the woman who once cried during a nature documentary because a fox lost its mate. Where did that person go? Was she ever real? The silence has become a character in my life now. It eats with me, sleeps beside me. It asks questions I don't want to answer. And every time my phone buzzes, I secretly hope it's her. Not to apologize, not even to ask for forgiveness, but just to admit it. To admit she knew she broke something that can't be glued back together. But nothing comes. She probably assumes I've moved on, that I'm too weak to confront her, that I'll disappear like an old coat she donated without checking the pockets. But I didn't vanish. I'm watching. I'm remembering. And I'm holding on to the one thing that could make her rewrite the narrative she's probably spinning for her new lover. The key is in my pocket now. I keep turning it over with my thumb. It's cold and quiet and waiting. Tomorrow, I open the box. And I already know, once I do, nothing will ever be the same again. I opened the box today. I waited until just after sunrise, when Harlan left for work and the cats were curled up in their usual judgmental silence. The air in the attic was thick, like it knew what I was about to do. I sat on the floor beside the mattress, key in hand, heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. For a while, I just stared at the lock. Part of me hoped it would jam, that maybe fate would intervene and tell me to walk away, that some truths were better left buried. But it clicked open on the first try. Inside were layers. Not just physical ones, though those were there, too, but emotional ones. Time folded like pages in a diary no one wanted anyone to read. At first, it was nothing alarming. An old scarf I hadn't seen in years. A photo of us from a trip to Portland, with her arm around my shoulder and a smile I thought was real. Receipts. Birthday cards I'd written her. But beneath all that was an envelope. It was thick, bound with a plain piece of twine. No name, no label. Just wait. When I opened it, my breath caught. Inside were printed documents. Dozens of them. At first I thought they were love letters, maybe emails between her and the other man. But no, they were reports, financial records, and legal filings, filed under my name, and they were dated months ago. It took me several minutes before I understood what I was looking at. Marigold had hired a private investigator to follow me. I felt my vision blur as I flipped through each page. Photos of me at work, at the gym, even one of me picking up dry cleaning. Notes scribbled in margins. Routine, no contact, no suspicious behavior. It was like reading my own surveillance file. Like someone had turned my life into a case study, one I never agreed to. Why? Why would she do this? And then I saw it. Tucked near the bottom. A handwritten note. One of the only things in the box written by her hand. Just in case he tries to turn this around on me. Need proof he's clean. Makes my story stronger. I swear, for a full minute, I forgot how to breathe. She didn't just leave. She planned her exit like a military operation. She prepared her defense. She needed evidence of my innocence, just so she could convince people I was guilty. This wasn't about love. It wasn't even about another man. It was about narrative. She wanted control over how it looked. She wanted the world to think I was the failure, that I drove her to someone else. And when she realized she had no dirt on me, she fabricated the idea that I might try to blame her. So she collected silence. She built her innocence around my predictability. I felt something in me twist. This whole time, I thought I was the passive one, the quiet guy in the background who just didn't see the signs. But this was different. This wasn't just betrayal. This was erasure. She didn't want to just leave. She wanted to leave as the victim. That's why she wasn't surprised when I left quietly. She counted on it. Because a man who vanishes without a word can't defend himself. He can't tell his side. And people like Marigold, they thrive in the gaps of a story, in the space where the other person never speaks up. Well, that ends now. I spent the rest of the day printing copies of every document in that box. I labeled them, scanned them, dated them. I don't know what I'll do with them yet, but I do know this. I will not let her rewrite my life. I looked her up tonight. She's already changed her profile photo. It's a picture of her and him, the new guy. They're smiling at some vineyard, 2 wine glasses raised, her eyes lit with the kind of joy I used to think was mine. And all I could think about was that note. Makes my story stronger. Not this time. I couldn't sleep last night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her handwriting. That little sentence, need proof he's clean, makes my story stronger, kept repeating like a whisper in the back of my skull. I imagined her writing it, pen gliding across paper, rehearsing her innocence while I was out buying almond milk and cleaning the gutters. How long had she been preparing her exit? And worse, how many people already believed her? I started making a list. Names of friends, co-workers, even neighbors. Who did she talk to? Who did she seed the lie with before she left? I remembered her best friend, Dakota, canceling brunch with me out of the blue 3 months ago. Said she was busy, but wouldn't look me in the eye. Our mechanic, Drew, used to joke with me every time I came in, until suddenly he didn't. There were signs. God, there were so many signs. But you don't question the silence when you're the one always filling it. I called Dakota today. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe some kind of apology or admission that she knew something and felt bad for not saying anything. But what I got was worse than silence. She picked up, paused for a second when she realized it was me, then said, "Emory, I can't be in the middle of this. I'm sorry," and hung up. That's when I realized Marigold didn't just leave me. She burned the bridges behind her so I couldn't follow. She poisoned the well, 1 cup at a time, until everyone around me was already sick with her version of the story. I'm not a confrontational person. I never have been. I let people speak over me. I nod when I should ask questions. I walk away when I should stand my ground. But now, I feel something growing inside me. Not anger. Not quite. It's colder than that. More focused. It's the realization that if I don't start controlling my own story, she'll finish it for me and bury me beneath it. I went back to the house today. Not inside. I couldn't stomach that. But I sat across the street in my car for almost an hour. Her car was gone. His was there. A sleek little thing, all show and no soul. There were boxes by the window, books, probably, or photos, reminders of a life she was actively replacing. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened the voice memo app. I started talking. Not to anyone, really, just to myself. I told the whole story. From the moment she looked up from folding laundry and said it was over, to the second I unlocked the box. I laid it all out, no edits, no filters. My voice cracked a few times. I cried, once, when I mentioned our trip to Portland. But I didn't stop. 43 minutes and 17 seconds later, I hit save. I named the file truth_1. I don't know what I'll do with it yet. Maybe nothing. Maybe it's just for me. But it felt like the first brick in rebuilding something real. When I got back to Harlan's place, I found an envelope taped to the attic door. It was from him. He had printed out an old photo of me and Marigold on our wedding day. On the back, he wrote one sentence. She left. You didn't. I stared at that for a long time. Because he's right. She walked away. She built a story where I was the ghost, the one who faded. But I'm still here. And I'm done being quiet. Tomorrow, I'm calling a lawyer. Not for revenge. Not to get back at her. I'm not built like that. But if she wants to rewrite history, then I owe it to myself to make sure there's a second draft. And if she thinks I'm going to vanish like a forgotten chapter, she's about to find out how loud the quiet man can be. The thing about telling the truth is, once you start, it gets harder to stop. I thought that voice memo I recorded would just sit there on my phone forever like some sad digital diary entry. But I listened to it again last night, earbuds in, alone under this leaking attic ceiling, and for the first time, I didn't sound like the weak one. I sounded like a man who saw everything too late, but finally opened his eyes. I spent the morning making more recordings. Not just about Marigold, but about me. About how I stopped noticing myself in our life together. How I let her opinions shape my hobbies. How I started dressing for her taste. How I deleted playlists she rolled her eyes at. It wasn't abuse. It wasn't violent. It was slow, invisible erosion. I shrank to make room for her expansion, and I did it with a smile on my face because I thought that was love. I finally went to see the lawyer. Her name's Jessa Mayfield. She didn't bat an eye when I handed her a manila folder full of surveillance reports, handwritten notes, and scanned receipts. She listened quietly. That part stunned me. She never interrupted once, not even when I rambled about pickles and broken porch lights and the exact shade of lipstick Marigold wore the day she left. When I finished, Jessa nodded and said, "She planned to control the narrative. That doesn't mean you have to surrender yours." I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until she said it. We talked for over an hour. She explained options, legal angles, emotional protections, documentation. She told me something that caught me off guard. Marigold might have built a story, but if her version depends on you never speaking, the moment you speak, everything changes. After I left her office, I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes just staring at the steering wheel. For once, I didn't feel like disappearing. I felt heavy, yes, but solid. Grounded. Like maybe I could hold my own weight for a change. But just as I was about to drive back, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in weeks. Marlene R., Marigold's older sister. We hadn't talked since the holidays. She was always a bit removed from her sister's drama. She once told me, over hot cider at their mother's house, Marigold never plays games. She builds mazes. Most people don't realize they're in one until they're lost. The message she sent? Call me. I saw something you need to know. I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to reopen old wounds. But another part, the sharper, colder part I'd been cultivating lately, knew better. I called her. She picked up on the first ring. No hello. Just this. I found out she drafted a letter to HR at your job. Claimed you were emotionally unstable. Dated 2 weeks before she left. She never sent it. But she showed it to her new guy. As proof you were spiraling. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Marigold was planting seeds before she even walked out the door. Marlene went on. Told me she stumbled on it while helping their mother set up a new email account. Said she confronted Marigold about it. Got stonewalled. No apology. Just silence. That same kind of silence I knew too well, the kind that isn't absence, but strategy. I thanked her, hung up, sat there in the car for a long time. I'm not proud of what I did next. I drove back to the house. Not to confront her, not to beg, just to look, to see if she still existed in the place we once shared. The lights were off. His car was in the driveway. Her shadow crossed the front window once. Or maybe I imagined it. I didn't get out. I didn't knock. But I did pull out my phone and hit record again. This time I didn't whisper. This time, I told the story, calmly, clearly, from the beginning. I named dates. I mentioned the letter to HR. I described the way she rehearsed her exit, the surveillance files, the calculated narrative, the missing key, the note about needing to look like the victim. And then I said something I never thought I'd have the nerve to say out loud. You didn't just leave me, Marigold. You tried to erase me. But I remember everything. And the quiet ones were the ones who never forget. I didn't go back to Harlan's attic that night. I couldn't. After recording that voice memo from the car outside our old house, something inside me felt altered, like I had crossed an invisible line. Not into rage or revenge, but into clarity. I wasn't the same man who'd walked away carrying a jar of pickles and the weight of his silence. No, now I was a man who held the blueprint of her lie in one hand and her miscalculation in the other. Instead, I drove to a place I hadn't visited in years, the lake house my parents left me before they passed. It sat on the edge of a cold, narrow inlet with a cracked dock and an overgrown path that still smelled like cedar and old fishing line. I hadn't been there since Marigold, and I stayed one weekend 6 years ago. I remember her asking, "Why do you hang on to places like this?" And I had said, "Because they don't ask anything from me." Now I understood just how rare that kind of silence was. I spent 2 nights out there, alone. No phone calls. No notifications. Just me, the trees, and that box. Yes, I brought it with me. Not because I needed to go through it again. I already knew what it held. But because I wanted it near me when I started assembling my own narrative. The one she couldn't shape. I began writing everything down. Not just the timeline of events, but the changes in her. The subtle shifts she probably thought I hadn't noticed. The moments she became less of a partner and more of a strategist. I remembered when she started keeping a second phone charger in her purse. When she stopped saying, "I love you," unless I said it first. When she began locking her laptop, even in the safety of our own home. All of it, piece by piece. And then something strange happened. I got an email. No name. No message body. Just a subject line that read, "You deserve to know what I saw." Attached were 6 images. Surveillance screenshots. Of her. With him. Not holding hands. Not kissing. No, worse. They were in our home. In our bedroom. She was packing a suitcase. He was sitting on my side of the bed, looking bored, scrolling through his phone. One of the images was blurry, but you could make out the name on the open drawer she'd pulled. Tax Docs 2017 to 2019. The same drawer that held my father's last handwritten letter to me, which I'd never been able to find again. I don't know who sent the photos. I don't know how they got them. But they were real. Dated. Time-stamped. Weeks before she told me she was leaving for good. Weeks before she pretended it was a clean break. She lied to everyone, including him. She was moving him in before she moved me out. And that was the moment everything inside me, the heartbreak, the confusion, the questions, turned into something else. Not hate, not vengeance, but certainty. Marigold wasn't careless. She wasn't cruel by accident. She was intentional, meticulous. And now that she thought she had won, now that she believed I had quietly accepted my role in her tidy new life, she was vulnerable. Because she had underestimated me the same way I had underestimated her all those years. When I drove back into town, I didn't go to Harlan's. I didn't go to work. I went to a quiet little print shop tucked between a barber and a bakery. I printed everything. The reports, the screenshots, her handwritten note, even my voice transcripts. And then I compiled them into a single file. Labeled it. For when she tries again. Because she will. She'll come back around. Not to reconcile. Not to apologize. But to manage. That's what people like her do. They circle back to rewrite whatever version of history doesn't serve them anymore. But this time, the story's already been written. And I have the ending she didn't expect. I didn't think she'd actually show up in person. But she did. It was 3 days after I dropped the file off at my lawyer's office, and I was standing in line at the hardware store, holding a cheap garden rake I didn't need, mostly just killing time. When I felt that familiar chill crawl up the back of my neck, I turned, and there she was. Marigold, standing 6 feet away, dressed in a trench coat like she'd stepped out of a commercial for guilt. She didn't speak at first, just looked at me like she was trying to find the right opening line for the version of the story she'd been rehearsing in her head. The moment was so surreal, I almost laughed. And then she said it. "Can we talk somewhere private?" I thought about it. I really did. But then I looked down at the rake in my hand, and I realized I already had all the tools I needed. Not to fight, but to be done. So I shook my head. "No," I said. "You already told your story, and I already lived it." Her eyes shifted, the way they used to when I'd catch her in small lies she thought didn't matter. For the first time, she looked unsure. Vulnerable, even. She tried again, softer this time. "I just want you to know, it wasn't about hurting you." I could have said 1,000 things. Could have asked why she buried her feelings instead of facing them. Could have demanded to know what she told her friends about me. Could have brought up the file, the photos, the fake HR letter. But I didn't. Instead, I looked her in the eye and said, calmly, clearly, "You taught me something I never expected to learn. That being the quiet one doesn't mean I have to disappear. It means I get to decide when I speak. And how. And I already said what I needed to." Then I turned around and paid for the rake. That was it. No blow up. No tears. Just an ending. A real one. Clean. Honest. Mine. Today, I'm back at the lake house. I've been here for 2 weeks now. I've cleaned it up. Fixed the dock. Hung up new curtains. There's a stack of printed photos beside my desk, all from before things went sideways. I used to avoid them, afraid they'd bring the pain back. But now, they remind me I was there. I lived those moments. And that counts for something. I've started writing again. Not about her, not anymore. I'm writing about healing. About what it means to build yourself back from dust. I'm writing about the strength it takes to walk away not because you lost, but because you finally found your footing. People keep asking me if I'm going to share what I found. The recordings, the files, the full truth. But the truth is, I don't need to. Because I know. She knows. And if she ever tries again, I'm ready. But I hope she doesn't. I hope she finds what she was chasing. And I hope she learns how to stop burning people just to stay warm. As for me, I'm finally learning how to be alone without feeling lonely. And in the stillness, I found a peace louder than any lie she ever told. Thank you for listening to my story. This was Reddit Confessions. If something in this story struck a chord with you, drop a comment below and tell us. Have you ever walked away from someone who never expected you to? Or had someone rewrite your story without your voice? We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay honest, stay kind, and don't be afraid to take your voice back.